All right, my friends, let's settle in. Take a drink of water. So, I encourage everybody to close their eyes. Place your left hand on your heart, right on that beautiful heart chakra of yours, the portal to all things soul and spirit. And then gently place your right hand on top of your left. I recently heard an interview with Sheila Gillette, who channels Theo, and they talk about how the heart is so important to humanity because it is the seat of the soul. So just take that in for a moment. Your heart space, your heart chakra, is where your soul sits. And when you think of the seat of the soul, it's not just where it sits, but like where it lives. It's very foundation. And this is why learning how to navigate, identify, and ultimately express our emotions is so powerful and important. They really are our superpower. And they're also the best indicator that we have of whether we are in alignment with the way that the divine is seeing things. So just hold your heart, my friends. Honor that this seed of your soul has existed ever since you first came into this life. That it is always there, always present, just like Source, just like the universe. For it is connected to a part of the very fabric of the universe. And this is why heart wisdom to me is so valuable. Learning to live from the heart, walking the path of the heart, listening to the heart's wisdom for guidance or inspiration. It's just so magical. Spirit, today we ask that you fill our hearts with your divine love so that we may increase our capacity to love ourselves and others, increase our ability to feel, identify, and express our emotions, and ultimately make that deepest, most vital connection with our very spirit and soul. Universe, we ask that you open our minds to your divine wisdom, that we may increase our ability to see and perceive things that we don't normally see or that we haven't been able to see, perceive new ways of thinking, new ways of acting, new ways of being, to open us up to your divine insight and perception. In universe, we also ask that you greatly bolster our strength with your divine strength and courage, particularly in those moments when we feel that we do not have the strength and the courage to face what's ahead of us, be it challenging or be it celebratory. Help us to remember that you are always available to us, pouring your strength and courage into us. And lastly, if you are seeking specific guidance today, my friends, I ask that you hold the thought of that deeply in your heart, as clear and as specific as you can. Or perhaps it's just a feeling or a phrase or a topic. And just set the intention, put your energy behind it, and then open your heart to receive whatever message we get today. Heights and circles, seven, please welcome me to a message for all of us. Today, a message for the collective so that we can be highest service solve to the world beyond. Thank you for your love and guidance. Well, as always, as I always say, there's an enormous amount of love that comes through when I first connect. And they're saying that they always flood the love into and through me because they just always want to remind you how deeply loved you are. They just never, ever, ever stop loving you. And it is so sweet for me to feel and such an honor. Today they want to talk about glasses, and I do not mean spectacles that we wear on our eyeballs, but glasses for liquid. So they gave me the phrase glass half full, glass half empty, that whole thing. I'm sure you guys have heard it before. And they have a little bit of playfulness in mentioning that. Because they're saying that the point of that old adage, glass half full, seeing things as a glass half full or seeing things as your glass half empty, the point of that isn't the glass. They're saying the point of that is the liquid. That in fact, the old adage, while potentially helpful sometimes as a good reminder, the old adage still lives in the duality of 3D life. It still lives in the binary. It's either this or that, right? But if we were to really feel in with our hearts and our souls, knowing that time and space are an illusion that are made up by man in order to quantify the passage of events, in order to help us schedule things and meet with each other. If we think about a glass and it has milk in it up to the halfway point, the reality is, I've never heard this before, the reality is that the glass is 100% full. It's just that the top half is full of air. And so they're encouraging us to step away from this either or thinking, to step away from this duality thinking of either my glass is half full or my glass is half empty. And they're wanting us to look at the empty space as being part of the full. I've never, ever heard this before. So what they're saying, why this is important. That empty space is, yes, it's full of air, but it basically represents the potentiality of what could go in the rest of the glass. You could fill the glass the rest of the way with more milk. You could fill the glass the rest of the way with chocolate milk. You could fill the glass the rest of the way with coffee or iced tea. You could even be really gross and put Pepsi or Coca-Cola in it. I mean, you could really fill a glass with whatever you want, and it doesn't necessarily have to be consumable. You could fill it with castor oil. You could fill it with whatever you want, right? If you're scientifically inclined, you could try and fill it with hydrogen or some other gaseous form. But the reality that they're asking you to look at is beyond the duality. They're asking you to look beyond the glass and see the connectedness between the space and the substance, which in their mind is the same thing. It's just energy. So a glass and milk and everything, it's a tad bit abstract. So they're giving you an example. Just feel into this for a sec. If we look at our lives and we are noticing what we think is missing, money, relationship, belonging, community, what else? Home, possessions, friendships, romance, whatever it might be. When we have those moments, because we're human. So we just, for the moment, just surrender, let go of any perfection way of looking at it. We're human. We're going to have these moments. Why? Because this is the fabric of life. Noticing what we don't want is a natural part of life. Why is it a natural part of life? Because that's how we learn what we do want. It's one of the ways we learn what we do want. But what do we do when we notice what we don't want? Well, if we maintain our focus on that, then the frequency, the vibe that we're giving to the universe, the story that we're telling, the topic that we're focused on is going to be what the universe hears. And they're not going to hear the not part. They're just going to hear the topic. It's just going to hear the topic. So what the guides are saying, that our duality thinking is what's causing the looking at it and saying, that's not this, right? I don't have this, or I don't have that, and I want that, right? When we learn what we want from looking at what we don't want, what they're suggesting is that we take a moment and we look at the missing, quote unquote, missing thing, and we see what really is there, what is present. So what, take for example, a romantic relationship. What is present when we don't have a romantic relationship? So what's not necessarily opposite, but what's a different way to look at it, right? So I'm needing them to help me out here. Oh, okay. I get it. Wow. So they're saying the minute we recognize that we don't have something, for example, romantic relationship, money, whatever you want to fill in the blank for whatever's current and relevant for you, when we notice that, right, it's almost like we have a choice in that moment. Do we want to ride that roller coaster, or do we want to ride a different ride? And so the different ride is stopping for a moment and saying, well, look, yeah, I don't have this relationship or I don't have this money, but if I focus my mind in the right way, I can begin to perceive and see that I actually have a space for this. Just like the glass of milk has air in the top half and room, plenty of room for more liquid. And so it's really the point they're really trying to make is this is an exercise of the mind. This is an exercise of our thinking of how we choose to focus. And we can and have, I know I have, developed habitual ways of thinking about some of the more potent topics in our life. And they're really saying that those habitual ways of thinking are just propagating the myths that we have come to believe, the myths of not being good enough, the myths of being broken, the myths of being not worthy, the myths of being not included, the myths of feeling not belonging, just all of those myths. They're all lies. They're all myths that we have taken on. And this is not, when we look at them without judgment, when we look at them free of the stories, we realize Oh, this is just this. I don't even know where this came from sometimes. Where did this belief come from? It doesn't even matter where it come from. We just look at it, right? And so they're saying there's not just two ways of looking at things. There's not have and have not. There's have and potential. And for them, those two are the same thing because potential is quite full. I know this is really kind of abstract. I'm not sure if this is resonating or not with you guys, but it's a really cool. Let me see if there's anything else with that. Yeah, quite simply, they're suggesting that the minute we see what we don't want, we catch ourselves and look at the emptiness, the space, not as emptiness, but as full of potential, as full of possibility, as full of an area that we can receive, or an area of our life, or an area of our heart, an area of our mind, whatever it might be, that we can receive in what we want, because that's where it's going to go, anyways. But it's not going to arrive. We're not going to be in alignment when we ride that roller coaster of all the myths, when we ride the roller coaster of all the stories that we can pile up. And believe me, I understand this. My 12 years living with Marty, some of you know about Marty, 12 years living in Rochester with her, I felt so low on my confidence. I had lost everything. I had a complete financial collapse when I was living in LA. I lost everything. They took my car, they shut off my cell phone. I had no money left. I was eating from food banks every week. I was bumming rides from friends to go to things that I wanted to go to. I was house hopping. I was house sitting for some people, sometimes pet sitting, and I don't like pet sitting. And I just was flying like a leaf in the wind, and I had no sense of my purpose. I had no sense of my value. After I'd lost all my money, I was scared as heck to date because I realized after a while, my whole dating identity was tied up in having money, which is so sad when you think about it. But that's where I was at 12 years ago. And I had to, I didn't have to. I just kept telling the story of how I'd lost everything. I did that for years. That's the God honest truth. I just constantly told people about the financial collapse and what I lost and how I was trying to recover. But the whole time, my mind, my topic, my story was focused on the loss. And it wasn't until I started to feel this urging in my heart that I was meant for more. And that started occurring in 2021, 2022. And the more and more deeply I listened to that, I realized that something was calling me forward. And that if I didn't say yes to it, my spiritual growth, I could just basically say goodbye to my spiritual growth because I had reached such a point of stuckness. I was habitually doing the same activities, the same things, even the things that I enjoyed doing weren't feeling fulfilling anymore. I had no community, a few smattering of friends online. And the only reason I'm telling you guys this is so that you know where I've come from. My vibration is not there anymore. I can feel that. I don't feel any angst. I don't feel any owie emotionally or mentally when I tell you that story. It's just factual sharing, really, because I want you to know that we all have things that have been challenging for us. It took me 12 years to shift out of that. And now that I've been doing readings and my sharing my gifts with you guys for the last 7 or 8 months, I'm growing more than I ever have before because I said yes. And all along the way, these last 7 or 8 months, I have had these moments in time where I've been called to reaffirm that yes. And I've been called to say yes again on an even deeper level. And actually, the most recent one was kind of saying yes to doing the channeling stuff, which is something that I was told I was a channel 20 years ago. But hey, you know what? Now is all that matters. So to get back to their message, We can say yes to things that scare us, even though we don't know how they will unfold. We can say yes to things that our heart is calling us to. And a lot of this, I mean, a lot of us have been around for a while. We've heard a lot of the tools, we've heard a lot of the practices and exercises, and those are all wonderful and all well and good. The main point, everything's energy. So when we look at the glass with milk in it, can we see the air? Can we celebrate the air? Can we celebrate the potential for the glass, for the rest of the glass to hold something? Can we even just be like, oh, I love that it's holding air in the other half? Is that fine with us? Can we be okay? Can we decide to be okay with how things are, without story and without judgment? That truly is the challenge, my friends. That truly is the challenge. And the minute that we can be okay, when I finally made peace with all of that loss that I told people about for years and was like, that's now the old me. That's not the story I want to tell anymore. The story I want to tell now is I feel called forward. I feel called into a purpose to figure that out, to find that, to discover that, to begin to share it. That was the story I began to tell in 2022. And here we are now. And it continues to unfold. So I just use myself as an example. I'm sure you guys have plenty of examples in your own lives. Let me see if there's anything else. Circle 17, any more messages? They're just reminding us that they are always there to support and that we must ask for that support. When we ask, when we open ourselves up, I was listening to, I was in on CG's live earlier today. I can't say CG's last name, but she's a channel as well. And she was telling her story about how she met the angel guides that she works with. And she had asked the universe, gosh, I wonder what it would feel like to be in touch with angels. And so they came to her. And when they came to her and she was like, where'd you come from? They said, well, you requested, you asked for us, you asked for it. And she realized, oh, I did. So another great teacher, beautiful example. So we can ask for that support. We can ask for that divine support at any time, my friends. It's always there. I know I've said this a lot, but apparently we just need to keep hearing it. And I know I do because I can get lost in my day-to-day stuff and forget that my guides are available to me. The universe is always there. Love is always there, loving me. And we are always safe, secure, and deeply, deeply loved. Yes. Now, this came up a couple months ago, this concept of planning for the party. I can't say a lot more about it, but it's a way of thinking about the possibilities. It's a way of thinking about our progress. It's a way of thinking about what's coming. When we're planning for the party, we are moving our mind into what's possible. We're moving our mind into the story of what is unfolding rather than into the story of what isn't unfolding. So, my friends, close your eyes. Picture yourself surrounded by beautiful bubble of bright gold shining light. An impenetrable bubble of safety, security, of love. And inside this bubble, my friends, everything is possible. All the love in the world, surrounds you, buoys you, carries you, in fact. And this light is forever and always surrounding you and being absorbed by you. For although we are physically manifested, this light, we are part of this light. And in those moments that we forget, we get the reminders from friends, family, teachers, from the world, from a sign out in the world, from something we read on the internet, from anywhere. We get the reminders and then we suddenly go, ah, that's right. I am part of all the light and love. And even if I don't feel it, I can remember that I am. And therein lies the beginning of returning to connect with it, returning to feel it again. Like a warm blanket of light and love.